Hello, hello, hello. I think we are live in the Parent Support Network. Hi, it's Lily Enrique here from the Parent Support Network, parenting strategist. And today I have a guest speaker with us whom some of you know, some of you may not. So Nathan is a naturopath, a herbalist and a nutritionist. He actually works at a holistic medical clinic called Beyond Good Health in Robina on the Gold Coast. He has been practicing naturopathy for about 13, 14 years now. And he is also big brother to my youngest son, hence he is my eldest son. And I wanted to bring Nathan on today. So welcome to you, Nathan.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to bring Nathan on today because we still have so many people, asking about, what if my child is displaying certain, tendencies or, if they're being diagnosed perhaps with something. How can we deal with this more holistically? How can we actually get the body operating in a way so that the child will not show the symptoms? And I know that I have been looking on some ADHD Facebook pages, and many of them are using various medications to help with their child's behaviour, etc. My husband and I actually chose, when our youngest son was diagnosed with ADHD and ODD and childhood depression back many, many years ago, to take more of a holistic approach. So Nathan, as a holistic practitioner, as a naturopath, a herbalist and a nutritionist, if a parent came to you and said, either A, my child has been diagnosed with ADHD, ODD on the autistic spectrum disorder, learning difficulties or what have you. I have a child who is hyperactive, who is aggressive, who is defiant, who is not being cooperative, who is not doing well at school, not concentrating, not following instructions, being oppositional. Where would you start with that family and helping the parent who may be looking for a more holistic way to deal with their child's challenges?
It's a great question. And because there's so many things occurring within someone's health condition that makes it unique for them, we start at the basics. And the basics is, what is it on a daily basis that is contributing towards their specific problem? Is there food intolerances that they're consuming each day, or foods full of artificial colors, flavors, and additives that they're consuming that right from the very beginning of their day is setting them up for a bad day, setting them up to be already irritated and frustrated internally, and therefore what you see, their behavior is a reflection of what's happening on the inside. So food intolerance testing and gut microbiome testing gives us that picture. Now, on top of that, what else is already in the body that's causing problems? Is there heavy metals? So there's a lot of studies done that show that lead, for example, especially with low iron, can cause aggression. And so if the child has heavy metals, and that can come from the mother or the grandmother because it passes down through 2 generations, even if the child's lived in a perfect environment and not been exposed to anything, it can still be passed on from mother and grandmother.
Wow.
And so do they have heavy metals? Is that something that we need to look at? Is there a current fungus, parasite, virus, bacteria in their body also causing problems? And so we try and reduce the total load on their body as much as possible. Once we've done that, or along the way, we're looking at, well, is there any deficiencies? Once we've identified what their body's dealing with, and we have reduced their environmental stress, meaning what they're eating and what they're drinking is now good for them, we also need to make sure that, is there anything on a biochemical or genetic level that's contributing towards the child's problem? And I've spoken about this a couple of times. One is methylation, and the other one is Piral Disorder.
I'd love for you to expand on those, Nathan, because often when I'm speaking with families and I mention Pyrrole or methylation, the parents are like, what's that? I've never heard of it. They may have been seeking advice from a doctor, a pediatrician, a psychologist, even psychiatrists. Yet many of the people I speak with have not had their practitioner ask about, have you had testing for Pyrrole and methylation? So firstly, what are they? How do they affect the child, and how do you test for them?
So I like to give analogies just so it makes it a little bit easier to understand, even though it's a far more complex than the analogy. But for methylation, I give that as traffic lights. And so if you're sat in a car and you're a set of traffic lights and they're both green, this is a far different story than if the one's green and one's red, like it's supposed to be. Things are flowing. If they're both green, everyone is very manic and chaotic, and there's chaos happening everywhere. Obviously, the car crashes, but for the person, they can't switch their mind off. Inside their mind, it's like constant crashes, chaos everywhere. And these are the ones that are probably about 12% of the population. Now, the undermethylators is the opposite. These are the two red traffic lights, very irritated, angry, frustrated, depressed, anxious. This is the other end of the spectrum, which is far more prevalent than the overmethylators.
So I imagine, Nathan, it's important to know and not guess if you are over or an undermethylator. So how do we test that? Is that a blood test?
Yes, that is a blood test. And there's a couple of different tests that we do to get a good picture. We can use a combination of copper and ceruloplasmin, along with zinc status, homocysteine, B12, and histamine. And so those bunch of bloods give us an indication of what's happening in the body when it comes to methylation, because on a larger scale, methylation is all about how the brain is interpreting information and helping your body decide what to do about it. Are you going to be calm and collected? Are you going to be angry and irritated by it? And so if someone has the same circumstance happen to them, their brains are going to be interpreting information completely differently depending on how well methylation is balanced. On a deeper level, methylation is how our DNA is virtually understanding what process to do to perform a particular function. So if you can methylate properly, the DNA has better control over your body. The instructions sent to all of our cells, tell them what to do, is going to be a lot better when methylation is working. But it can also affect cognitive function. So, even as adults, if you're finding you can't remember things, you're struggling to comprehend, cognitive function is going down, this is all a part of methylation. The prevalence of how well our liver is detoxifying us and the support of our heart all come down to methylation. So methylation is quite an important area that can often be misdiagnosed just because you may present as the hyperactive, go, mind is all over the place, overmethylator. That might just be a temporary swing in symptoms, but you're a true undermethylator when you're looking at all the other pathologies. So that's why it's always important to test.
Wow. So you would give a script as such for somebody to take to a pathology lab to go and get that blood test, then they would come back to you either in person or on Zoom. So I imagine if somebody is not on the Gold Coast, they could still work with you to get this test and for you to analyse it. And then if once that pathology is back and they are either an under or over methylator, which is reasonably, we can assume that they're going to be one or the other if they were displaying those prior symptoms, then you would set about on a strategy to help so level that out. So what is the middle ground for that?
In terms of treatment?
No, in terms of if you're not an over-methylator or an under-methylator, you're just a good methylator, like you're just not either way. How does that work?
Then that's great. If your methylation is going great, then we move on to the next thing, which may be Piral disorder.
And so that brings us to the next one. Sorry to interrupt you there, Nathan. I know I bring up Pyrrole as well, and there are some people who are knowledgeable about it and know about it, but I must say for the majority, they are not. So tell us about Pyrrole.
So as an analogy, think of Piral disorder as how quick you're losing nutrients. Your reservoir of like B6 and zinc and manganese and biotin, for example, might be full because your diet and gut is good. If you have Piral disorder, it's like you've got holes in the bottom. So you must rely upon always filling that reservoir back up. Otherwise, you get to the point where if your diet's not the best, the gut's a bit compromised, now your reservoir is low and your body doesn't have enough resources. So it's a biological process where we are losing these nutrients through really regulating hemoglobin production. It's also a big sign of oxidative stress. And so the difference between just having low zinc and B6, for example, and having Piral disorder is we see the elevated Pyrrole in the urine, which is an indicator that there's a lot of oxidative stress happening in the body. So again, you can be a bit genetically predisposed to being in this position because of oxidative stress. If you're not sure what that is, think of when an apple is cut in half and it goes brown, that's damage to the cells caused by free radicals. And so oxidative stress and Pyrrole give us an idea, is that the situation? Or do they just happen to be low in these nutrients like zinc and B6 because they're not eating the foods that contain them? So that test kind of helps us know which direction to head in.
And then awesome. And then once again, once you know where they're at, then you can act accordingly. So I know that so many parents in absolute pure desperation, if that's the right word, or wanting their child to be able to function normally, seek advice from practitioners who upfront recommend like a pharmaceutical drug, that, you know, to try and help the child in their body. But, you know, I know for us, and I'm not judging anybody who's taken that path, but for us, that wasn't a way to go. But my reason for bringing this up is, once again, not to be judgmental, but just to ask and ponder why more mainstream doctors / pediatricians, psychologists, etc., aren't looking at what's going on in the body rather than giving them a band-aid. Do you have any intel on that? You know, why that's the case?
Because it's a 6-day course to go and learn just about methylation and Piral disorder. And it's not really going to be advertised through the channels of keeping up their professional education. It's not brought to their front desk like typically seminars would, that come from those who have more influence over what the doctor learns. And so it's not unless the doctor is holistic and looking out from beyond what they've been taught are they going to find this information. Unfortunately, Dr. Walsh, who sort of is the one uncovered all this, he, I think, was working for Pfizer and was working on an antidepressant and found this whole pathway in the brain that was linked to methylation and Piral disorder. And unfortunately, the only treatment was nutritionals. And so it's something that a pharmaceutical would just not be interested in because that's not their area. And so because the doctors, that's mainly what they deal in, that's just not their area.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because so many people are not aware of this. And how, so for example, if somebody's listening in going, okay, I've got these two options, I can go to my GP and get a drug that will minimize the effects perhaps, or can also give other side effects. But let's just say that's option one. And option two is what you've talked about, which sounds like it might be a little bit more time and effort involved. What argument would you give for the benefit of them taking the more holistic path in the short, medium and long-term health and wellness of their child and their relationship with them as well?
Well, regardless if they choose to go down option one route, that is, as you said, managing their symptoms, the ability for them to concentrate, you know, sit still, listen. But functionally, if they did have, you know, heavy metals, imbalanced microbiome, methylation wasn't working properly, that's not going to be fixed. And so you could do option one and option two side by side. And then as some of the issues have been corrected, you wean off option one along with assistance with the GP you're working with. And you may find that's not needed anymore. For those who, you know, would like to put in a bit more time and effort to go down route two, then that's why we're here to support them. Internally is only going to be good as externally. So what I mean by that, even taking supplements and having a great diet, it's only going to be as good as the environment that psychological based child is listening to on a daily basis. Meaning if the teachers, the family friends for the child are all inputting, and the parents obviously are all inputting a certain program that the child is being used to. You're naughty, sit still, why are you always misbehaving? You're a little terror, whatever the language might be used, whether it be in jest or not, that is conditioning a learned behavior. So even if you'd fix the original problem, the learned behavior needs to be fixed, because if they're used to getting their way through a certain action that they do, whether it be misbehaving, speaking, throwing things, tantrums, whatever that might be, that learned behavior needs to be retaught. Just because it's fixed internally doesn't mean psychologically the brain hasn't associated how to get this, time to their parent by applying this behavior. So that needs to be completely reworked. That's not going to be instant either. It's just a matter of, on average, what to have a new habit form is about 2 months. So it's at least 2-month period where you need to sort of be trained and coached in what to say to your children, how to deal with different situations. So it all ties in together.
So, and I often say to parents, it's a bit like baking a cake. You've got to put all the ingredients in if you want the cake to turn out nice and fluffy and tasty. So hence why I have this huge passion for the parenting and relationshiping side. And whilst, people get great results just with what I do, and people get great results just with what Nathan does, if you want the long-term ongoing benefits of having a happy and healthy body and awesome relationships, then it's really important to look at, that's why we call it holistic, look at the whole body, not just at the symptoms and putting a band-aid on, a festering sore. Like, that's just not a really great idea. So thank you, Nathan. I was hoping we might have had time to touch on emotional health and well-being today, but we'll leave that for another day because you've covered so beautifully today. So if people were interested in finding out more from you as a practitioner, what is the best way for them to reach out and connect with you?
They can go to beyondgoodhealthclinics.com.au and we can help set up an appointment, whether it be in person or online, and get the journey started.
Awesome. Is that, I had somebody ask me this question just a few days ago, in that initial consultation, is it best for just the parents to speak with you so that they're not trying to, talk about all the negative stuff going on in front of the child? Is that what you would recommend?
Because no testing is done physically on the child at that point, yes. Yeah, okay. It can make it a little bit easier.
Awesome. And otherwise they can call the Beyond Good Health Clinic in Robina. Do you know that number off the top of your head?
5522 8902. If that doesn't work, then yeah, just Google Beyond Good Health Clinic Robina, and number will be on there.
And we'll need the 07. We can put that in the comments below. Perhaps we can put the website and the phone number. So thank you so much, Nathan, for covering this today. I think it's super, super important, from my perspective as a parenting strategist, helping parents to enjoy happy and healthy children and relationships is really about looking at the whole body. And particularly for those parents who are really feeling the stress of their children, not just in their emotional health, but in their physical health and well-being, with the aggression, the defiance, the not cooperating, the being, breaking of the rules and not concentrating, etc. Then looking at what's happening with the physiology of the body is a really important thing to do as well. So thank you so much for sharing with me today. I always have to get Nathan on because no matter how many times I hear what he says, I'm not qualified to duplicate that. And I don't understand it obviously the way Nathan does. So I really appreciate you putting so much effort into educating people in this area, Nathan. And I know in our current Nurture Your Heart to Greatness course that we're doing, that you're going to come on, not tonight, but next week, and talk a little bit more about this as well with the group. So thank you, Nathan, for everything that you do and all the lives that you're changing. Much appreciated. Lillian Reiki, parenting strategist from the Parent Support Network, and Naturopath Nathan from Beyond Good Health Medical Clinic. Bye for now.